something else interesting happening while we were at Thunder Hill. You had the whole Knoxville Nationals, late model Nationals with the Lucas Oil Series, and them trying to decide who was going to be there for in the chase for the championship. Obviously, you had Ricky Thornton Jr. already in, Davenport already in, Moran already in, and then so it was between Hudson O'Neal and Tim McCready for the fourth and final spot. O'Neal goes in leading by 15 points, and McCready's chasing him.
And it was Saturday finish
only.
Feature finish only.
Yeah, 3 nights of racing, but only your feature finish Saturday is what counted for
championship points.
The
rest was prelim stuff.
And so we're racing, obviously, at Thunder Hill. We practiced Thursday night, raced Friday and Saturday, but we're watching that, maybe not so much Thursday and Friday as, you know.
Well, at first because you get so focused on what you're doing when you're at a race weekend like that. The first I knew who won. I knew I'm sure we'll talk about it, but the
Davenport and the dump
and stuff. But so you see the headlines. But then the first I'd really thought about the championship deal, the top four, was I think you showed
the starting order for Saturday.
Starting order is like these guys weren't they side by side?
O'Neal was starting fourth, McCready fifth in the main event Saturday.
Right. Yeah, so it's like Saturday morning you're scrolling, you see that pop up the lineup based on prelim points and how they're going to start, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, this is going to be interesting.
So I think so we were racing Saturday. While it literally Joseph is, I think it's going to be in the video from Saturday, the front video from Saturday night. Joseph is sitting there waiting for hot laps, and we have the iPad pulled up watching the feature.
Yeah, because they had rain.
So they had to move it up. Yeah. So he's like, hey, bring that over here. So we're sitting there watching the start of the feature as he's waiting to roll out for hot laps. But O'Neal looks like he's charging forward. McCready falls back a little bit, and we go to hot lap, and we're thinking, looks like it's going to be O'Neal, and McCready just isn't going to make it. It didn't have enough. And then I guess at some point it sort of flip-flopped where O'Neal started fading and McCready started coming forward. And in the end there, I believe O'Neal faded. I think they said he got to pushing and run over got to pressing, and he ended up running over the infield at some point and about turning over. And anyway, McCready gets in, O'Neal does not. So I think me and you both, in a roundabout way, I think it was more of a we like to see a Rocket, not just Longhorns, in the Final Four. Like to see McCready in the Final Four. So we both last week picked him.
Yeah.
But I think it was more sentimental than.
Well, that's what I was going to say is a sentimental pick because we don't know how many more of these McCready has. All right. Like, I feel like we're going to watch O'Neal win some championships over the next 10, 20 years. So nothing against Hudson, but I think kind of maybe pulling for McCready to get in. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's it looked like it was going to be interesting. I didn't get to really watch it, but kind of just keeping up with it and everything. And it looked like, unfortunate for Hudson. But that's the way it goes.
So the question is, how impressed are you? How impressive is it that the Rocket One team, with all the change up early in the year, O'Neal leaving, McCready coming in? I think McCready was, I don't want to say buried in points when they, coming out of Florida and headed into the regular season, but definitely not. I don't think any of us thought he was going to get in.
No.
I think it was more of a question of, does O'Neal make it?
I think, though, looking back, it was probably like, kudos to Mark Richards because, that was probably the right call in the midst of a season, like the season, which it was still early in the season, but everything's kind of like you don't have time for the team really to gel, right?
Right.
So you go to a veteran driver who you have a relationship with, that professionally is going to come in and do his job and do the best he can, and that like going with a more maybe younger, unproven, maybe like he knew what he was.
He wants someone that could get him in and win now,
and he did that. McCready did that, and to HUD's credit, he had to. Obviously, we talked about it last week. He's been through a lot of different changes and everything, and he almost made it in. But, for the Rocket One team, it paid off. For McCready, it paid off. I'm sure in fact, I know he had to really, it was a tough decision to leave Paylor and go there. So, it'd be interesting to watch, see how they do here in the final stretch, the playoffs or chase, whatever they're calling it.
7 races, I believe, starting this week at Brownstown.
Definitely going to be watching.
Give McCready much of a shot of winning the deal?
Like I said, like we talked about this last week, that's not enough races where guys are gonna bad luck could really play a part here, right? Not as much obviously as last year with one race, at Eldora there, the dirt track. Spreading it over the 7 races will make it less likely, but I think there's going to be at least one of these 4 guys that does not falter, right? That goes through the whole 7 with potentially podiums every race, or at least top 5, at least top 10. So it could be where if you have one bad night, you can't. It
really sets you back, ruins your chances.
So if what if all 3 have the other 3 guys have a bad night? McCready's the guy that top 5's the whole way, or top 10's the whole way. He could do that. He could. Will he? If it just came down to who's been the most consistent, who's most likely to run up front. I don't.
Who's that guy? Who's been the most consistent, most likely to run up front?
I feel like, again, and we've had a lot going on, so I haven't been able to follow this as much, pay as close attention. I haven't looked back at the stats. I feel like if you'd asked me a month ago, 2 months ago, I think easy answer was RTJ.
Even after the switch?
Yeah, initially as he got rolling, but I would say, to me, right now, the guy who feels like has the most, not just momentum, but also is going to be the most consistently up front is Devin.
Yeah, I was about to say Moran. That's who I would, based off what they're doing right now, I feel like if I was going to put my money on someone, I'd put it on Moran to come out on top. RTJ, I don't know. He just seems like, they started out when they made the switch and he went to Kohler. Started out hot, right? Looked like he was just going to pick up right where he was, but it seems to me like a little bit they're struggling to gel a little bit maybe. The consistency's not there. So I don't know. Interesting to see. Davenport, I just feel like he's all year sort of been a little bit just not where he wants to be. Moran, to me, just seems like he's it feels to me like he's the most consistent of them.
And I think I saw RTJ debut a new car at Knoxville.
Yeah, he wasn't. He was, I guess,
and it struggled. He's had some things off, but that tells you, to me.
Yeah, they're searching.
Yeah, if you're debuting a new car going into this deal, and for them, they're already locked in.
I was about to say another thing is the race really didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it was a good time to do it, right? But so maybe that isn't. You shouldn't look into that too much, right. But. I don't know. That tells you they might be searching a little bit, coupled with the, a little bit of a lack of consistency and him not being quite what we're used to seeing from RTJ. Doesn't mean they can't, get back and get back dominant here for this stretch. But like I said, I think Moran seems to be the one who's most on top of things right now.
Gelling the best.
Yep.
Definitely interested to see what happens here over there. They're during their chase, final 7 races kicking off this week at Brownstown.